Can you talk? Do you know?
With that group, what happened was I hitchhiked to the South Island. That was my plan, and I ended up crashing at this place called Tahuna Farm, which was on the edge of a town called Nelson, and it was basically just leased land that a group of people had paid an absolute peppercorn rental. I think it was like $15 a month to lease this 10 acres that had an old farmhouse on it. So it was like it was a real commune in the sense that, you know, everyone slept in the back room, and it was easy because we needed very little money. And over time we had got into trouble with the local authorities because we wouldn't go on the sewer line or have electricity. We were totally dependent, right in the middle of town, you know, composting our shit and, you know, kerosene lamps and things. And also the people that owned the land it was obvious it was going to be developed. And so a group of us, about, I don't know, probably about 8 or 10, a loose group, decided that we needed a real farm and set the ball in motion to buy land. We got donations, we worked as a demolition crew, raised enough money to put a deposit on a farm, and we bought a farm. So I was part of the founding group of Renaissance. We started at Tahuna Farm. So we bought Renaissance in 1979, and we wanted to operate on the same, in the same way that we had at Tahuna Farm. In other words, no boss, no one's in charge. Everybody puts in what they can, does what they can. You don't have to if you don't want to. Integrity. And we got to Renaissance, and everything was different. We had mortgages we had to meet. We had all these other people who came and joined who had not had any experience at Tahuna Farm. We had massive disagreements about everything, like compulsory money, because we'd said just give what you can. So when there were bills, we'd write the bills up on the blackboard, and I used to go around and say, got any money, got any money, got any money? and we'd pay bills that way. And then there was things like people would get upset about doing all the work, and other people just turning up for meals, and all those really same old arguments. And factions formed because there were the people that wanted compulsory work and financial contributions, and there were people, and they were the same people who said we need to have some screen on the gate, who comes in, who gets to stay, when someone comes, we need to have a process, all those sorts of things. The other people saying, no, no, never done that. That's not the principles of what this is all about. This is about individual responsibility for action. And because there was never agreement, no systems were ever put into place. Which was great and was terrible, because we attracted some fantastic people. But over time, you know, the 70s turned into the 80s, and the 80s was a really different decade to the 70s in New Zealand. It was, the government changed to having this, you know, the whole neoliberal thing started happening. There were a lot of quite dispossessed young people. We got this flood of people coming from Auckland that, or you know, one or two came to our farm and then went and told all their friends. And so from the kind of hippies that smoked dope driving combi vans, we started getting these guys, mostly guys, all black, you know, there was the punk. So, you know, rock and roll had gone to punk and then to kind of gothic. And we got these guys with black clothes, dogs, often really aggressive dogs. They drank rather than smoked dope. They had crapped out old Japanese cars that they just drove to the farm and then they died. So, you know, suddenly we'd have 20 dead cars on the farm. The whole tone changed. And there were lots of these people, lots and lots. And we had no way of saying, oh, we're full, we don't want any more. And they would go, this is fantastic, you don't have to pay any money, they feed you, free cheese, milk, meat, eggs, dope. Man, they loved it. And because the core group of us couldn't agree with each other on how we were going to structure our farm and what we were going to prioritise, whether we were going to prioritise building or crop growing or educating the children, all this stuff. So we were squabbling away. Meanwhile, this sort of peripheral bunch of black hoods was growing on the edge, and eventually, over time, this group just got really fed up, and one by one they all left, and the hoodie group are still there. Some of them have been there for 20 years. In terms of having our shit together, we, as the group of us, the core group of us, we did have our shit together. I mean, we built a wool shed, which is an enormous shed for people who shear sheep. We did a job moving a school building. It was 90 metres long, 30 metres wide. We sawed it in half, jacked it up, put trucks under it and moved it around the block for a Catholic school to another site. And that was a bunch of hippies, basically. And that was quite amusing, because it was in a very redneck town on the west coast of the South Island, and you know, who thought hippies were just really out to lunch. And we got the contract to do this job, and every morning all the old guys, all the old retired men in the town would kind of stroll down the road and lean on the fence to watch us. And Toppy, the guy he was a very strong and quite a charismatic person in that group, and very clever on construction and building. He got us these contracts, and he always went barefoot, summer, winter. He was kind of like a Neanderthal man. This massive brow and this big hair, and he'd go, "Arr!" A huge kind of tree of a man in these bare feet on a demolition site, nails, broken glass. Anyway, these old Westport guys just couldn't believe it. And they watched us, actually pull this job off and recite it, put the school back together, down on piles, re-roof it, and they had a little spiel in the local newspaper, and the headline was "Westport discovers hippies can work." So that core group of us, we were very capable, and we worked well together, and we were good friends, and we liked each other. There was probably 8 or 10 of us, but that just, after we got Renaissance, it fell apart, because for all those reasons I said.